Okay, guys, so you guys probably won't hear much from me on this debate because I'm out here driving in the middle of nowhere. But if we could please get a volunteer, someone to pipe up in the channel to say that they'd be willing to judge this debate. Austin, Kian, Synth, looking at you guys. Oh. All right, Synth is all right. Synth, yes, got you, Synth. Okay, all three of you. Okay, all three of you. That's fine. I'm cool with that. All right, Synth coming up. Austin coming up.
What's up, squad?
What's good?
All right.
Kian coming up. There we go.
Whoa.
I'm ready to start whenever.
All right. Well, minute for each of you to have your opening statements. If you could try to explain the concept of what you're arguing at least a little bit to people like myself who may not fully understand what this debate is about, although, and what your premises are and what your opening statement is, and then rotate, and then
I think Bunk is server muted, by the way.
Bunk? Hold on.
Noah.
Hold on. No, they're not server muted. Looking right now.
I think they are, man.
On my screen, they've got the red mic icon.
Yeah, they got the
them, which is
red mark and
indicator
a
of
highlight
server.
over that, and it says server
Hold on.
muted.
So I just unmuted them.
Do they need special permissions or something to speak? What is it Infinitism has? Just member. Nope. Yeah, there's got to be something weird going on because that's the red one.
No, I mean, like, look, this is what I told him. I told him he can just type the responses and we'd be fine with that.
Yeah. So, hold on. This is so strange. Hold on. Bunk, go to I think maybe, I don't know, maybe you got server muted at some point for having like a soundboard noise. If you go to the, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, wait, hold on. Nope, got it.
Perfect. Okay.
There we go.
No, there.
Yeah, you were server muted. What did you do to get server muted, Bunk?
Probably. Oh, they were on.
Oh,
they weren't.
No. He just screamed slurs.
No. Bunk. I understand. I actually remember this. Me and somebody else were debating. I forget which person it was. I think it was Liam. And Bunk's mic was. Yeah. It was Liam. And Bunk's mic was on, but Bunk was talking, but like it was just for like safety purposes, for the sake of not having anybody jump in.
Okay.
Somebody server muted you.
I literally have never spoken a single word in the server. No one's even
true.
heard my voice.
Because you were server muted the first time you were here.
They knew that I was gonna come in here and just scream all these.
Okay, I'll mute up.
Yeah.
They had a strong seeming towards it, so they were justified in the belief.
Let's go. But anyway, so wait, Love, should I just go first in the opening since I'm taking affirmative?
Yeah, you can go first in the opening.
Okay. Well, I'll just give the preliminary about what the debate's about, just so the audience is aware, right? So, in philosophy, we have what are called theories of justification. Okay. So these are theories about what we sort of mean when we say we're justified in believing this. There's a justification for this, whatever, right? And so infinitism basically is a view on justification. So it's saying that there's basically an infinite chain of justification. You might be familiar with this Trilemma philosophy, which is like the justification for anything is going to be infinite, it's going to be foundational or dogmatist, or it's going to be circular. I just take the infinite horn, and then I'll just see the rest of my time. But hopefully, we're gonna have a good faith dialogue here. It's going to be relatively calm. It might be boring, but
All right, is it my time? Can I speak now? I don't know if they're supposed to be.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, sick. Hey, my name is Noah. Some people call me Bunk. I talk about different philosophy topics. As Erik went over, there's different ways that you're going to be able to round out certain beliefs of justification, like epistemological justification for what you think is true. when it's going to come down to it, you can kind of ask yourself why over and over again. And as Erik said, you're going to arrive at what is called Münchhausen's trilemma, where you're either going to take the view that there's going to be something that's like foundational, it's axiomatic, you proclaim it to be true, and there's no justification for it. You're going to eventually bottom out there. You're going to have a circular set of justifications where one thing justifies the same statement, and then the thing that was supposed to be justified by the first statement also justifies the first statement, right? It's going to be like a circular reasoning to some degree, right? And then there's also the idea that there's like an infinite set of justifications. So there's going to be for every single time that you're asked why, there's going to be some kind of justification given for that. And essentially what we're going to be disputing is whether I believe that there's going to be some kind of set of infinite justifications. I'm curious about the view. I think I'd like to hear Erik ground it out a little bit as somebody who doesn't take the view of infinite justifications or even a belief in infinites in general. So I don't know. I think there's a lot to go over on the topic. Again, as Erik said, it might be a little bit boring, but we discuss philosophy a lot, and normally it's really civil between me and Erik. So
Yeah. And then like I saw. I'm trying to think of where to start. So, and you can choose. We can start on, I guess, what interpretation of justification I go with, or we could just start about whether or not it's possible for there to be infinites. I'm fine with starting either.
So I think the thing that turns me off the view the most would probably be the possibility of infinites. I think we can like ground out justification different ways. I think you already know that the way that I would ground out justification is going to be instance-independent reasons, and they're going to serve to some degree like epistemic prescriptive talk, like normative talk when it comes to epistemology. We've already kind of glanced over that before in some of our previous dialogues. So I think that starting on like the contradictions that are either drawn with infinities or the unintuitive conclusions that they tend to lead us to, I think would be a really interesting place to start. I don't know how much you know about the topic. I can kind of lay out some groundwork if you'd like me to.
Yeah, that's fine. And you can. I mean, I know certain paradoxes like Hilbert's Hotel and Grim Reaper
paradox.
So
you're already familiarized with Hilbert's Hotel. Okay, so I can still explain for the audience. Hilbert's Hotel is essentially the idea that you're gonna have we can have an infinite hotel with infinite rooms if we presuppose the case that infinites exist, right? So there's this infinite hotel and infinite rooms, and they're all full, right? There's infinite people, they fill up the rooms in the infinite hotel. The people don't change, and now we have this new person at this hotel. Okay, this new person comes in. What we can't do is we can't tell them to go get a new room at the hotel because it's going to be the case that all of the rooms are full, as we established previously. But what you could do in Hilbert's Hotel, and what's proposed, is that you could ask everybody to move up one room. And what would happen then is that since there's infinite rooms and there's infinite people to move up in these infinite rooms, you would move up, you'd like free up one space where the rooms and the people occupying it hasn't changed. It's actually increased, right? So the contradiction is just going to be drawn between the number of hotel rooms that are like available and the number of hotel rooms you have and the increasing numbers of the given population who occupies those hotel rooms. And that's just going to draw like a contradiction, seemingly draw a contradiction upon the idea of infinites. So I suppose that's like, I think the biggest thing that turns me off of the view is just it's really hard for me to ground out anything that like has to do with infinites. Do you have like a deeper account for infinites there, or are you just like is it just like you don't affirm actual infinites, but you affirm some kind of other idea whenever it comes to the infinite justification?
Well, we can get into what we mean by infinite justification real quick, but I think we probably take the same account of what infinity is. But I don't know. I have general sort of responses to cases people give to show there's some type of contradictions in infinity. So like Hilbert's Hotel cases, Grim Reaper paradoxes, whatever. And so this type of objection that I'm going to raise is called the unsatisfiable pair response. And so it's essentially the idea that, in the cases that are stipulated, like, Hilbert's Hotel, the Grim Reaper paradox, what it's stipulating is just an unsatisfiable pair of propositions. And look, that's just to say we have two propositions that can't be true at the same time that are entailed by the case, right? And so, yeah, it's true that, given the case with the propositions that are stipulated, it leads to some type of contradiction. But I don't think that contradiction is a result from just affirming the actual infinite. The contradiction is just from there being an unsatisfiable pair in the particular case. But there's not like contradiction you can draw out just within infinity itself. It's when you have certain cases and you stipulate certain conditions that lead to some unsatisfiable pair obtaining.
Yeah, so I guess you could try and ground out the view by saying, well, it's not the case that it's not the case that infinities draw justification, or they're going to draw paradoxes in and of themselves. It's just going to be the case that when we affirm kind of infinity. So I guess what you could say is there's like some other part of the case which you might not even be able to know that you'd think is drawing the paradox, or there's some other type of condition which cannot be satisfied. that you would reject. And I'm not gonna. It kind of feels unfair to put you on the spot for it right now. But I can imagine somebody grounding it out in some other way. Another way I could imagine somebody grounding out possibly infinites, and I'm not sure how this would play into your view, is like saying it's like not an actualized infinite, right? Like there's seemingly infinite hypothetical like implied beliefs that somebody could hold. Given a what do you call it? Given a set of beliefs, right? There's going to be certain things that are implied by that set of belief, other beliefs that are implied, and they're going to be like what would you say, like disposed to it would be a word. And then like it's not an actualized infinite, it's just like a theoretical infinite. The same way there's like theoretically there's infinite times I could divide space between my hands right now if I put my two hands up, and there's a space between those, and I could technically have them as many times as I wanted to. It's seemingly infinite times, right? But it's just never going to be actualized. That's something that you could say, I think.
Yeah. But just for the unsatisfiable pair response, and so I mean, if with respect to drawing out like whatever specific conditions lead to contradiction, I mean you can in the Grim Reaper case with leads to contradiction isn't there being an actual infinite. It's the times you stipulate where the Reapers come in to kill the person or to take their life. Yeah. So I mean, it's just with these cases you can just identify the conditions that lead to the contradiction that are stipulated fairly easily. But yeah, I guess what it sounds like we're moving to is if I am affirming that there's an actual infinite, and I think you're right to say that I'm only really affirming that there's an infinite set of dispositional beliefs, basically, or second order dispositional beliefs.
There's there's a finite set of beliefs that people hold, but there's like an infinite set of beliefs that they like potentially hold, and they're like disposed to those beliefs, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then for that whatever chain that is, whatever infinite chain of second order dispositional beliefs that is, for it to be justified is just to say that look, throughout this entire chain of inferences, all the beliefs are true, basically, right? Or whatever attitude they're towards is towards some true proposition.
Yeah. I understand that part of the view. So I guess that would I'm not sure if that would fully. I'd reject that like you draw even contradictions on the infinites of the Hilbert's Hotel. I think that I think that just from my seemings alone, this could not be the case for you. You might not be justified in believing this the way that I am. There is I'm much sooner to reject the idea of actualized infinites than any of the other parts of the case. That would be something that I'd be like more inclined to reject. But I couldn't particularly like force you to see the way that I see that case, right? Maybe it's the case that you find infinites incredibly plausible. Like, they just seem incredibly intuitive to you. Which is, I mean, it's just going to play a place that we're going to disagree. I don't really know how to cross that impasse at this given moment. But I guess to address the point that we kind of got on to the earlier case, I don't necessarily know if like in all cases the infinites have to be actualized to draw kind of like unintuitive conclusions. So I guess like this might be one way that I could kind of like pry your brain to see the way that like I do about infinites and them being like quite implausible by comparison to the other parts of the case that we're proposing. So are you familiar with like give me 1 second. Are you familiar with the fuck now the name is slipping my mind. God damn it. Is it St. Petersburg's game? Am I getting that right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Oh shit. Okay. Okay. So I could be completely wrong about this, and everybody in chat's totally free to own me right now. Okay, if I just fucked up the name. But in St. Petersburg game, I remember it. It's a game where supposedly at a casino, right? There's like a starting stake of this game, right? It's like it could be $1, it could be $2, it could be whatever we want it to be, right? And the starting stake is set at this casino, and supposedly every single time that a coin is flipped, it's a fair coin, and every time that it's flipped, it doubles the given quantity that is currently the stake. So, we flip the coin on one side, it lands on tails once, and that's going to be like $4. Flip it again, it lands on tails again, it's going to be $8, so on and so forth. Whatever the coin eventually lands on heads, if it lands on heads, you are going to receive whatever the given payout of the stake is, right? So the problem with this case isn't necessarily that it draws a contradiction, right? It doesn't entail any logical contradiction whatsoever with the given case, right? We could just extrapolate this out for as long as we wanted to. It draws as much of a contradiction as just having infinite numbers would, right? What draws I think the unintuitive part, though, that I'm trying to get at is, like, what would be the stakes that would be playable for this game, right? How high would you, like, put the entry fee? How high would it be fair to be? Supposedly, if infinites are the case, right, it'd be as high as you want it to be. It could be literally everything, right? Because the expected output of the given game, the expected stakes are going to be infinitely high. So no matter what the entry fee is going to be, it's going to be a good wager for you to make. But I don't see that to be the case. I think that's like incredibly unintuitive. I guess you could say like like maybe your intuitions about this particular case in math are going to be wrong or something like that. But that's like one reason why I find infinites quite unintuitive. Is you find cases like that where it's like this doesn't seem to be the case with the math. It doesn't seem to be something that we'd be willing to wager in this situation. And I think that like maybe that's like a little unintuitive for me. I don't know if you have like any if you like maybe you find that case to be intuitive to some degree, or maybe you just like you have some other objection that I haven't heard to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I sort of give a similar reply to these cases that I give to, like, cases that try to draw out a contradiction, which is just that I don't know if the problem is with an actual infinite itself there. It seems like it's mainly just the actual infinite when applied to that particular case, right? Like, because presumably, look, we can draw out cases where there's a finite amount of causation, where it like seems like a really weird case or like a really unintuitive case, right? So, but that's not some reason to rule out, causal finitism. It's just to say, like in this particular case where there's finite causation, it seems weird. So actually,
like
in the case
we get
of
an unintuitive conclusion with math. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, I mean, for the case of second-order dispositional beliefs, an infinite set of those, I don't find it unintuitive, and this is going to bridge into talk of justification, more like proper, which is so Klein, who's like the main infinitism guy, has two principles, right? He has the principle of the principle of avoiding contradictions, and the principle of avoiding arbitrariness. And so, for the audience, the principle of avoiding arbitrariness is just to say, look, we don't want to have unjustified beliefs, right? And so we don't want to hold beliefs where there's no reason to hold them. And then the principle of avoiding circularity is obviously self-explanatory. We want to avoid circularity, and the explanation behind that is, well, look, if we have some inference, we have some set of premises and a conclusion where that argument is question begging, the probability of the conclusion, if it's the same as one of the premises, if the conclusion is the same as the premise, then the probability of the two are going to be the same. So, or at least the probability of the conclusion is going to be lower, given certain principles of rational support. So, essentially, a question-begging inference isn't actually justifying if you take on a probability interpretation of justification. So, what that leaves us with is we have an infinite chain of non-repeating justification, and so in that case, I don't find it unintuitive, especially given the PAC and the PAA.
One thing that I do find to be a little bit hard to account for on the view, I don't think I necessarily reject, at least intuitively, I don't reject any of the principles that were affirmed there. But the one that I might take a little bit of issue with is the the arbitrarity bet, right? When you say like arbitrarity, is it speaking to like any kind of axiom whatsoever, or are we talking to like just like a pure dogmatist view of like there's going to be some place where we bottom out and there's no meta justification?
Well, place just so by arbitrary just means some unjustified belief or some belief without evidence or something like that.
Yeah, but eventually I'd assume that there's going to be some belief that you take to be unjustified, like or without evidence, whenever it comes to like a dogmatist approach to this, right?
Oh yeah, well I reject the dogmatist approach for that reason. So I think there's actually an infinite chain of justification, and I don't think it actually bottoms out in some type of brute fact or something
I understand
like that.
I understand that you don't think it bottoms out in any kind of brute fact. What I'm asking about is like when it comes to like a view like mine, which is it's not what we're here to discuss today, right? I'm questioning you on your view. You're taking the affirmative here, but if it was like to like pose my hypothesis for an example, right? Like why is phenomenal conservatism, right? Like eventually there's going to be one point where it's just like I kind of have to assume something is axiomatic, right? Like even if that is just like induction is axiomatic or something like that, right? That'd be like an example of something that I kind of would have to assume, right? It could be the case that every single thing is just random. All things are random at all times. There's no series of causes. There's no series of probability. None of it's real, right?
Yeah, well,
eventually I'm gonna have to bottom out at like saying, okay, well, I think that like I take it to be the case that induction is gonna be true, and if deduction is gonna be true, and then I can take it to be the case that like at least my seemings to some degree are going to be accurate. Then I can kind of give some kind of further justification from there, right? I'm going to lack that meta justification, I guess your view has, right? I'm asking like, is that the place that you take issue with it?
Well, for PC, there actually are tons of issues on meta justification, but I know. So I think arbitrariness is just a bad epistemic practice in general. So look, in other cases, just take a flat earth through that. Like, look, they just set their axiom as the earth is flat or something like that. We're going to say, look, the beliefs that they derive from that aren't justified, right? So what we want to say is, okay, well, look, when we have these sort of unjustified or like sort of arbitrary starting points, we don't want to just end it there, because it seems like with respect to like justification, we want to say that they're justified in some sense, like certain, like systems of logic or whatever. If my system of logic is like whatever Austin says is true, I'm going to say that someone who says that isn't justified in their belief, but someone who says their system of logic is just there's like a law of non-contradiction, law of excluded middle, and stuff like that. We want to say that their system is justified, right? In order to say one system is justified and the other system is unjustified, we're going to have to sort of throw out arbitrariness. We're going to have to say, okay, well,
yeah,
there are
these
non-repeating
like
results.
axiomatic principles that have to be withheld, right? And this is going
Yeah.
to be the it's going to be issue that supposedly I believe you're probably going to take with my view, which I'm sure we can discuss another time. I'd love to defend that to you some other point in time, right?
Yeah.
But the part that I think I'm going to take a little bit of issue with is it kind of seems like it's very hard to ground out the justification for like infinites here, because it kind of feels like it has to be supposed. It has to be like presupposed. I don't even know how we'd possibly ground out the infinites, right?
Yeah, it's usually
it's
given.
the case that like you just think that there's like an infinite set of them, right? And it almost feels like we're kind of getting towards it being circular, right? Like I don't know if you understand the way that I'm thinking about this here. If you think that like I'm mistaken on the view, but that feels like where we're moving towards whenever we're talking about there's just an infinite series of justifications, and then like supposedly the infinite has an infinite series of justifications, and then you're gonna have an infinite series of justifications for the
yeah. Most infinitists like Kleiner, they're okay to admit that there's going to be an infinite chain of justification for the infinite chain of justification, and so on. But I don't think infinites are being supposed in the sense that I'm like saying they exist without some type of argument or something like that. Like you can give some argument like if the PAC and the PAA are true, then infinitism is true. The PAC is true, the PAA is true, therefore infinitism is true. And then you could give that type of argument. Obviously, there'd be infinite justifications for each of the premises, but I mean, as infinitist, I'm fine to say that. Fine to say there is an infinite chain there.
Yeah, I just I find the like probability of the infinities to be quite improbable, especially whenever it's given to the cases earlier stated. But again, I just don't think I don't know if you think there's a place where we're gonna find an impasse there, and we can just like there's a place where we can cross that impasse there if we just like kind of have something that we'd have to iron out with like probably like a lot more time.
I don't know, maybe because look, if we conditionalize the probability of there being an actual infinite on the PAA and the PAC, then we have like it's going to raise likelihood pretty substantially. But if you want to say even given the PAA and the PAC it doesn't seem probable, then that's probably just some type of impasse. But I think if inferentially it's justified if you conditionalize it on these two principles that we take to be like very prima facie plausible.
Okay, so you just take like the starting two principles to just be incredibly plausible before like any sort of any argumentation is laid forth.
Yeah, I think they're very plausible, and it makes infinites more plausible if the probability of there being infinite is just conditionalized on those principles.
Okay, gotcha. I'm not necessarily sure if I find the probability of the infinites to be all that plausible, even presupposing these to be the case, right? I think that, like there might be some case they're like actually I think it'd probably be the case that even if we weren't able to come up with some other justification, right? If like Münchhausen's trilemma is just like all we have for the end of philosophy, it'd probably be more likely than not that Münchhausen's trilemma is just the case, or it just isn't the case, than for the infinites to be true. I think it'd be more probable. At least when we're speaking to like one of them being a contradiction. But again, that's going to be like an impasse. I don't know if we're going to be able to.
Yeah, because it depends on what priors you said for there being infinites. Like I don't have super low priors on there being infinites because usually the cases, like the initial priors I have on there being infinites is probably like really, really even-handed. It's probably like 0.5 because most of the cases I'm given of like infinites usually, or being unintuitive, like I was talking about earlier, can sort of be explained away by other facts. So I just put the priors on like something like 0.5, and then they sort of like, and then my priors sort of increase once I conditionalize it on the other two principles. But if you have your priors lower, then there can be argument about whether or not that's the priors you should set. But I think it sort of just ends there.
Well, to be honest, though, it probably doesn't end there for me, right? I could probably give some kind of arguments as to like the reasons why you might hold this, but then again, we're gonna have just like the meta-ethical dispute, and I feel like we've kind of had this meta-ethical dispute a billion times before between like being an internalist on justifications or an externalist on justifications, and like different what even reason talks about. I think you just have like a little bit of different intuitions there when it comes to me. Like I could pose cases like the ice cream case that I posed to you before. I guess I'll pose it again for the audience. here because they haven't heard it ever, because this is the first time I've ever talked here. But when we have a dispute, and I have like two people talking to each other, and one of them says like, I think strawberry ice cream is really good, and the other one says, I think strawberry ice cream is really bad. Okay, I think it's like really bad. It doesn't seem like they're disputing any kind of proposition between the two, right? When one speaks to like strawberry ice cream being good, it doesn't feel like they're having a substantial dispute, because one can just affirm the proposition that strawberry ice cream tastes preferable to them, and then like chocolate ice cream or the other ice creams just don't taste as preferable. Where the other one might say, well, strawberry ice cream, I affirm the statement that strawberry ice cream tastes good to you, it just doesn't taste good to me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But whenever we talk about like moral talk, for example, and like I guess a more traditional sense of it, right? When we say things like slavery is bad, right? If I say, well, slavery is bad, and then you say, well, slavery is actually really good, I think slavery is fine. It feels like we're actually disputing some kind of shared proposition there. But I think that like your intuitions are just going to be around the case that like it's going to be similar to that of a movie. But whenever we talk about movies, I think that like we're almost posing some kind of like hypothetical stance independent set of criteria for them, which might lead you to like an errorist view on the way that we use moral talk, right? If you think we're using them the same way. Or I guess it could be the case that you just find it less intuitive than I do, right? I find that case to be incredibly intuitive to like account for what we mean whenever we make given moral propositions. But that would be again, that would be like an entire conversation. We have to go into the ideas of like the fucking stance independent reasons. And all
Well, there's
that.
like a preceding conversation to that, to like whether or not, because like I could adopt the same conclusions you sort of do on normativity, but it wouldn't be like an assault on infinitism or anything, because like infinitism, when talking about justification, to be clear, is not deontic. It's not going to be a type of beyond justification. It's talking about what we ought to believe. Oh, one second. Oh, sorry. So it's not going to be the type of view that's talking about what we ought to believe or something like that. What it was just talking about is it's just cashed out in terms of probability talk. So maybe on justification, I'm not even sure if we're taking a deontic view, infinitism would be true, which is why Klein and when I'm talking about infinitism, we're just talking about probability.
Yeah, whatever I'm talking about justification, I suppose this should just be the semantical dispute. This might just be the place that we're at right now. Is when I talk about justification, I'm normally talking about is like what we ought to believe, right? Like what are you justified in believing? It's like an ought statement, right? We're talking about normativity when it comes to the ethics, or not the ethics, the epistemology that we're talking about. There's some kind of like ethical element to it. And reasons. Them talk about reasons. I think that might be where our dispute lies. That would again, we'd have to get into like a meta conversation, and then we'd have to have the conversation about stance independent reasons, and then we'd have the conversation about stance independent reasons, and then we could have the conversation about whether the stance independent reasons are playing into our talk about epistemology, and then like maybe we could iron out dispute here. But I don't know. I'm not sure where to take the conversation from there. If you have anything else that you'd like to wrap up with.
Oh yeah, I think it does end there, because look, if we just mean, it sounds like a verbal dispute. If I just mean, by justification, I'm just talking about probability, then yeah, infinitism is going to be true, because if the PAA and the PAC, like, the probability of a proposition is always conditionalized on the probability of others, and also, there's issues with circularity. It's not probability raising. So that if we take a probability view, that's probably entailing infinitism. But yeah, it's not entailed if you take a deontic view, right? So yeah, it just depends on what we take justification to be. I think it's just a verbal dispute. It sort of ends there. I don't know.
It's like it's a verbal dispute. We just mean two different things with the word, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Okay, I guess that's it. Wait, is Pay here?
Did Pay leave? Dude, this was too autism for even Pay. Okay? Pay was not putting up with their shit today.
What was the proposition now?
Infinitism is true.
Is true.
Oh, okay.
I think Bunk won. So
I'll vote last. Kian, who do you think?
Oh wait. Are we supposed to give like a reason why?
Yeah, give a reason, but yeah.
I feel like we can cast our votes first and then give our reasons for
after.
after.
Reason afterwards. Yeah. Yeah, I think Bunk won too.
I was leaning towards Erik. And so my reasons why, if I go through here and remember, there were a lot of arguments that I think were left on the table that I would have liked to hear made. And most of those ended up coming on Bunk's end for me. That's the reason why I would give it to Erik, and you two would both give it to Bunk probably. I think Like, so
I was gonna say, I wish there was more dialogue on like the reason why actual infinite or like infinity has some unintuitive aspect, because it seems
Wait,
like Eric
Pei's
was just
back.
saying,
Hold on.
there might be.
Pei's back.
I mean,
Okay.
look, Eric, is this your view that like there might be some other variables that are driving the unintuition or
Yeah,
unintuitive
the response I
aspect of
gave.
these?
The response I gave is in literature. It's called the unsatisfiable pair response.
Yeah, I
It's
wrote
just-
that down.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I got
yeah.
The in the dispute that I was just giving into that is just yeah, like in all these cases seems to be the infinites, like the consistent
Infinites
way,
are the
like,
driving there.
yeah, and I find them to be unintuitive as it comes to the very beginning. So I mean, like I don't know what we could like pass through there. We could both like sit down and read academic literature here, but I don't think anybody else is interested in hearing us continue the debate. But now instead of like both of us just talking about autistic things that we've read, now we're gonna read the autistic things together. Like I think I'm fine.
No,
with
yeah,
that.
like I think that I think that the probability talk at the end was cool. I do think that like if you're looking at the trilemma or whatever, like I do think that the probability is I couldn't remember. I do think the probability of like infinitism is gonna be lower than like some circular account. And I also agreed with the cases for why intuition were unintuitive, or shit, that infinity was unintuitive. So that's why I gave it to Bob.
Yeah, I think Kyan and Austin. So, Pei, I'm not sure if you heard. Kyan and Austin both gave this to Bunk. I gave it to Erik, so it ends up going to Bunk. Or Noah. Noah is the name of Bunk on here. I
do think with that being said though, Erik is like insanely smart. Like I really respect Erik.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
yeah,
a
I
really
think-
good conversation. It was like a
I think
ridiculously good
Erik-
conversation.
I think Erik should have given like some case or some reason to be like an infinitus or something.
Well,
So
yeah,
I gave the
also-
PAC and the PAA.
Yeah, but then there's also
Well,
the problem
yeah,
of, like
but,
I'm
like-
kind of spurring that onto Erik in the moment with like paradoxes and infinites. That's like
I mean, I
the
heard.
conversation's always gonna
it's
end.
kind of like a super like math way to go into it, especially when it came to like the St. Petersburg game. So I don't know. I don't expect like an off the top of the head knockdown argument or something.
So
Well, I mean,
here's-
it's definitely written.
Before we move on, I wanna
it's
give
definitely in
the-
the literature.
Look,
So I
before
don't know if it was.
Oh my, I'm gonna go crazy. Austin.
Yeah,
Look,
you're
I know
right,
all
you're
these
right.
words. I know all these words. And you're interrupting me. I know. Look, I'm gonna say so many words right now.
I'm just gonna keep interrupting her.
So fucked up. So fucked up. Okay, here is some going through. If I was like really quickly speed run through maybe some things that would have like flopped my vote to being the same as Kyan and Austin. One is I would like Erik mentioned that like you can identify the conditions that stipulate the contradiction in any of these situations. And that kind of like
One.
oh it's bunk one overall.
Oh
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
My view is Erik did. Kyan and Austin give it to Bunk. But what some of the arguments that I was kind of curious to hear made that I feel like could have like progressed the conversation is one is like I was curious to know if it's Erik's view that the count of justification is an integer value. Because getting into the math stuff, I feel like there are some really wacky conclusions you get there that would just be by virtue of the fact there is an infinite involved, not even by a situation, just by the virtue of an infinite integer.
Oh, you mean like when we like cash it out to be like an equation?
Well, yeah, no. I literally just mean like, is the number of justifications an integer value? Can you have like a half justification? I don't think that's.
Oh,
I think
I thought you were talking about the St. Petersburg. I'm sorry, I'm not tracking. I'm alone. Like the sedatives are kicking it.
It's all good. No, I was gonna ask. One is just like, is the counter justification an integer value, or can you have half justifications? It seems to me that you can only have whole justifications, and you can have more and less justified things, but each justification is one justification, not like a 0.5 of a justification. It seems to come in these little bundles, and so you'd have an infinite number of these existing things which are integerized. Then you get like infinity division problems. That seems strange to me. That seems like an issue on the math. Another one was so you get the St. Petersburg paradox, and then Erik said in the particular case it could seem weird, but that doesn't mean there's a problem with actual infinity. And like I get what that argument was supposed to do, but I was curious to hear you maybe like ask, like running through the premises necessary for the St. Petersburg paradox and running through which one is
like,
the most
which
likely to reject
premise do
on
you
Erik's
think
view.
that, it's like unlikely. Yeah, I could.
Yeah, 'cause that would be
could have gone
yeah.
down that route. I don't know. I'll jot it down as like debate advice for later.
Because I feel like the least unintuitive one in that scenario that would get you to the problem is the infinities. That's the one that I would go with. But maybe I don't know. Maybe Erik just thinks that
Erik
EV calc
has,
is bad
has
or something.
Pretty high likelihoods or like pretty high priors
Yeah.
when it comes to infinity. So like maybe.
But damn, the other ones are so simple. The other ones are so intuitive, right?
But here's the problem. But here's like the problem though. It's like whenever you're having a conversation with somebody like Eric, I feel like me and Eric probably have pretty different justifications. But I do think that like the point of that was supposed to be okay. Well, we have like this set of premises. I feel like I already kind of knew where this conversation was going. We have this set of premises, and like this seems like a really unintuitive case. Something seems really wrong here. And whenever we take a look at those premises, there's like one that's left that seems to be less intuitive than all the others, right? So that's like going to be evidence in favor of the idea that we probably should give less credence to infinite. Like again, I didn't.
Yeah, well, that's what I would say too.
Argument, right? It was just like.
No, well, that's arguments with dialectical power usually. Yeah, you know, arguments with dialectical power usually you could always like Morian shift them away, but like it seems to be the case that if you take a look at these premises, I think it would be harder for Eric to reject other premises of the St. Petersburg paradox than rejecting the infinity axiom. That seems easier to dismiss, but I think there are other counter arguments that I could think Eric could bring about to like move the credence in the infinity axiom back up. Because I'm not a finitist, but I'm kind of neutral on it. Another one was I was wondering if like does Eric think you're justified by having the justification or by them existing out there? So like is it the case you have to like internally have the justification, or is it the case that externally the justification existing is like sufficient? Do you have to have access to the justification? Like what makes a belief justified in that sense? That was one question I'd be curious about hearing asked. Because I think that could maybe get the conversation moving forward a bit. Other ones were like, there was probability talk, and I think Austin kind of referenced it. And the probability talk I thought was like that was getting in a really strong direction. So like, is there any chance the probability is independent on 10?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all. You don't have to sit here for this. They're more just questions, like or to like retrace shit back for maybe the members of the audience who are willing to suffer through it. Probability of independence on the infinite justifiers, right? Is it the case that there are like even 10% of these infinite justifiers, which are all these like ultra high level, ultra justifying beliefs from like a million justification chains away? Is it the case that there's like even 10% of them are like independent probabilities, or even somewhat independent probabilities? Because if that's the case, you can just do the math and you reduce the probability of your belief in infinitism being justified down to 0, or any belief for that matter. That's going to be an issue. That would be weird for me, I think. But maybe there's like a way out of that too. Then maybe the last note here is, why do we assume beliefs are justified at all? Like, what's the argument for that? Because it seems like it was a process of elimination argument coming from Eric for the majority of it. That seemed like a fine argument. Just like, here are the 3 options. Here are why 2 of them don't work. And what I was trying to figure out is, why is it the case that all 3 don't work? Maybe the argument could just be like, yeah, it seems intuitive that like justifications exist, but I don't know. That seems like I would want to hear an infinite chain of justification for that argument if you're an infinitist.
I have a question for Eric. If you're done, Synth.
I'm so done. Yeah, I was running through all of them.
No,
but yeah, I think Eric won.
So whenever Bunk was like talking about the unintuitiveness of like the certain cases, like the gambling one or like Hilbert's Hotel, it seems like what Bunk was saying was there's like a common denominator which causes the unintuitive aspect just being the infinite. And then it seems like you referenced there could be other variables or conditions that satisfy it being unintuitive. Like I was just wondering if you like had an example of what would cause the unintuitiveness, because it seems like the just saying there might be variables as low priors for me to believe if I have like another explanation saying like the infinites are causing.
Austin, you used the wrong "you're" there.
Yeah.
Christ.
No, but I mean, it depends on the case you're giving, right? But I mean, so look, the common denominator thing is also kind of weird because look, you can just like list a bunch of cases of there being a finite amount of causation in some given case, and it sounds unintuitive, and say, oh look, between all these cases I just give, what's in common between all of them is just that there's a finite amount of causes in the case, right? So you can do that for any view. Look, you can just give a number of unintuitive examples, just equalize for one variable, and say, look, across all these cases, we see that this one variable is present. That must be the best explanation. But, like, obviously, it wouldn't be right.
Well, no. I was just saying that like it seems like we're gonna have like a more specified cause of the unintuitiveness for Bunk, and that.
Can I do that? But wait, can I?
You could do it for causal finitism if you just said there's other variables that explain it. But I think
It's
without being presented some variable that would like explain unintuitiveness in those cases, I'm just gonna be.
Well, Bunk didn't ask for a variable in those cases, but I mean, I gave cases in like, I mean, when it was on the contradiction discussion, I actually did give specific variables. So for like the Grim Reaper case, for instance, I just listed the variable that leads to a contradiction as the times at which the Grim Reapers were supposed to kill the person. That's the intuitive thing, right? And that's what leads to the unsatisfiable pair. I mean, like I said, we have to name the case, and then I'll just tell you the detail in the case that makes it unintuitive. And Hilbert's hotel might be that there's an infinite set of people in some hotel that's infinitely expanding. That's explaining why it's wrong, right? It might have to do with without rather than just the infinite itself.
Well, Erik, the way I took it was like this. So the cases that he gave where there was like some seeming like there was some contradiction or something like that. That's when you gave the variable like the unsatisfactory set thing, right? And that's going to prove that there's like no contradiction or something, or there's some other reason that there's a contradiction other than it being like an actual infinite or something like that. Well, in cases where it was just about probability talk, I don't think you ever gave like a variable explaining why like that's going to be unintuitive to people.
Well, he didn't ask for one. Like right after that. Yeah, right after that, it moved on to something else. Because
I don't say that to be like his thing to ask, like for you to give like the reason.
Well, because no. I mean, like,
he gave one and you didn't. Yeah.
No, I mean, you like went on something, and then after it moved to normativity, and then it just turned into a convo about normativity. And if that's Robert's justification.
Well,
or no,
yeah,
sorry,
well,
it might have moved on from that to probability.
Well, yeah, all I was saying, like, is the points I gave you, Erik, were like, there was no contradiction pointed out in your view or something like that. But there was also, on Bunk's side, he did point out that there was like, it was unintuitive. And I don't think you gave like a satisfactory like response. Because
it just like moved on. Like moved on to something else immediately after. But also, look, like, presumably it'd be on the other person's burden to, like, if they're like presenting the case and saying it proves X or something, they would have to like point out that, look, it's some fact of the case that leads to it being unintuitive. Or they have to point out that, look, it's this particular fact of the case that leads it to being unintuitive, rather than some other fact of the case.
Well, no, because all you said
that doesn't
was,
prove what he's
like,
trying to
variables. Because all you said there was more variables. Like, that's not going to be. Look, there can be more variables. Like, that's fine. Like, one can accept that. But look, you can also accept that like this variable seems to be a common denominator, and it's going to serve as like some intuition. Like,
we already named the problem with the common denominator thing.
I'm gonna. Okay. I think that the only shit. Okay, I don't know if I have anything else to say. Sorry. This is like the time to go to bed. I've actually stayed up late for a night debate. But I appreciate you guys all being here. I appreciate Erik for being here. He's an amazing interlocutor every single time. Really cool guy. I appreciate Dakota. I appreciate Austin. I appreciate Cayenne for all looking at this debate and reviewing it. And I will be back here, I guess, tomorrow, whatever time it is, to do another 2v2 with the Dakota, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, Erik,
what time is it, Dakota? Real quick.
It's 11:13 p.m. where I am.
Oh,
yeah, wait.
I didn't ask. I didn't mean what time is it where you are. I know where you live. I'm asking what time is our debate.
What time is our? You didn't say what time is our debate, dog. You said what time is it?
I've talked about our debate, and I said what time is it? It.
Yeah. You gotta look. It's not gonna be clear from the sentence, right?
Oh my
Jesus
God!
Wait. Also, wait, Kian, I'm confused why you want me to respond.
Just DM it. DM it to me.
I got you. It's 6 p.m. 6 p.m.
Real. Wait, Kian, just real quick. The response to the common denominator stuff. Response to the common denominator stuff doesn't make sense because Bunk didn't bring up like a common denominator thing. He didn't say like between. No, he didn't say between all these cases they have an infinite. And that's what makes them unintuitive. No, he didn't. He didn't do the common denominator thing. He said no.
He said it was. He said in cases where. Yeah, of these.
Yeah, I think.
No, he said there's certain cases where there's some infinite that are unintuitive, but he didn't make the claim. Look, what best explains all these cases being unintuitive is just them being infinite, right? Because if that were the case, look, we have some disjunct here. If he didn't make that claim, then there's no need for me to respond to it. And if he did make that claim, well, then it would just be his burden of proof. So
why would you then respond with like there are other variables?
Because look, if I just point out that in principle there could be other variables, that's just enough to show that he just has to point out that the variable is it being infinite, not some other variable. If there are more variables that could lead to it.
I don't know. Like I took it to be the case of like when he said the variable in this case is going to be the infinite or something like that. I took that to be saying that like when people mostly when people identify that there's like some unintuitive nature to infinity or something like that. I take that to be the case that like he's making the claim that that's like the common denominator.
You
At least that's
know,
what the audience
well, yeah,
thinks
he
it.
could. Well, yeah, but presumably, look, if the claim is, I mean, I just gave you the conditional. If the claim is that there is a common denominator, and I point out, well, look, there could be other variables that explain whatever it is. There's other facts of the case. Well, yeah, then it'd be his burden to point out what that is. It wouldn't be
Why would it be
sufficient.
his burden there? Wait, why would
Because
he?
he's making, presumably, the burdens on the person making the claim, not the
Wait,
person
you're
who's not
making
making
the
it.
claim. You're saying there's other variables.
No, the claim. Sorry, the claim. You're confused on the claim now. The claim is just this is the best explanation. Look at being infinite
wait,
is the
what was
best
I saying?
explanation for why it's
Wait, no.
unintuitive.
I don't take the claim to be it was the best explanation. I take it to be that like when most people identify it, it's going to be the common denominator.
Sorry, but if by common denominator you don't mean best explanation, then it just doesn't matter. Look, it's just saying between all these unintuitive cases, they have this property. Okay, and look, I can like.
He hasn't been given a reason to believe.
Well, no, just saying. Well, no, he wants to say, look, because if he doesn't say it's the best explanation, all that's being said is, look, I listed all these cases, and all of them have this property, but it's not related, right? If you want to say it's related, if you want to say that, it being infinite is actually what makes it unintuitive, you're gonna have to claim that, okay, the explanation for why it's unintuitive, or the best explanation at least, is the fact that there's an infinite involved. Otherwise, the claim is too weak for it to be any attack on what I was saying.
Yeah, but why can't he say he's like agnostic?
Can we read the stage to Infinitism fan 456 versus Kian?
Yeah, but why can't he just be like agnostic to the other variables and just say that like this is like he could
he's making the claim that it's what explains it being unintuitive.
It's what explains it being unintuitive? Wait.
Yeah, he can't make the claim, look, this is what explains why the case is unintuitive, and say, oh look, I'm agnostic on what explains the case being unintuitive.
Well, no, he could be agnostic on what the variables are. Like he could say something.
Well,
like
the variable he's saying. The variable he's saying that causes it to be unintuitive is just there being an infinite.
Well, look, he could be agnostic towards like your set of variables or something. Like maybe.
No, he can't be. He has to claim that it's not whatever variable. Well, he has to claim that the variable. Wait, Sin, tell me I'm not tripping. But look, if the claim is, look, the reason it's unintuitive is because there's an infinite. He can't say, oh, well, I'm agnostic on if there's some other variable that causes it to be unintuitive. Right? The variable would have to be the infinite.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he could have like some set variables, right? That he could be saying best explains the data or something like that, right? But he could also be saying that like he's agnostic to your set variables because there could be variables that he's like he doesn't know about.
Look, he can't say, look, this is what explains the data, and then also I'm agnostic on if this best explains the data.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Sorry, then what's being said? It sounds like what you just said.
I'm saying he could have some idea of what the variables are, right? He could say that like, let's say there's like 3 variables or something, right? And one of the variables is the common denominator of being an infinite, right? But he could also be saying when you say something like, oh, there are more variables, well, he could be agnostic to that because all he's saying now is that he doesn't know the variables that you're in.
No, because like if there are other variables that explain it, then this claim would just be false. So presumably, well, no, he's making the claim. Right. If he's making the claim, if you make the claim, this is the best explanation, right? That leaves out, or that bars out the negation of it being the best explanation, right? Like, look, if I say the best explanation for the universe coming into existence is the Big Bang, right? Yeah. What that entails is that not the Big Bang is not the best explanation for the universe, right? So it's the same for the infinite case. Look, if he's saying infinite, the fact that there's an infinite is the best explanation for why it's unintuitive, the negation is true, right? So things that are not the infinites are not the explanation for why they're unintuitive. He can't be agnostic on that.
Well, no, he's not. Wait, sorry, he's not agnostic. He's not agnostic in the sense that, like, out of all the reasons he's been given for other explanations of the universe or something, right? He's saying that from the explanations he's been given for the set data, like infinity, he's making the claim that out of those, right, that's the best explanation.
Well, if you're saying from what I've seen, if you're saying, look, from what I've seen, I like this explanation the most. That's just an argument from ignorance. Or it's just saying, oh, look, out of what I've seen, this is the best, so this is the best explanation. That's.
Wait, he's not saying this. Wait, what? He's not saying.
He's not saying it's the best explanation.
He's saying it's the best explanation under the understanding that he has. Yeah.
Oh, he is saying it for the understanding he has. Is that how weak the claim is? Then I can grant that, and that's not doing anything. Well, then I can just. Then I can just grant that, and that's not doing anything. If when people claim it was the best explanation, they're saying, "Oh, look, this is the explanation out of what I've seen that I like the most." Then yeah, I could grant that. That's not a big deal. That's not going to affect whether or not it's true. I can say, "Oh yeah, maybe out of all the explanations you've seen, it's the best." Okay, and
What?
Now you've weakened the claim to where it doesn't affect the argument at all.
No, he can still maintain the claim that it is the best explanation overall from the reasons he's been given.
Overall is weird, right? It's not going to be taking the set of all reasons, just the set of reasons he's encountered. And if the claim is just if the claim is just from all the reasons I've seen, I like this one the most, then the claim is weak and it doesn't affect the hypothesis, because I can say, oh, maybe that's true. That's not going to affect whether or not there are infinites or anything like that, or whether or not it's unintuitive, right? You're just going to say, oh,
yeah.
So I'm glad we agree that objection doesn't affect my argument.
Wait, sorry, it does affect your argument. If all he's saying is, his explanation does a better job of explaining the data that he's like.
Well, better job is weird. Look, by better job, you just mean the best one he's seen. You don't mean it's actually the best.
Well, wait. It's your job to prove that, because look, if you don't give him a reason,
no, I'm not making claims.
It is the best. Wait, it is the best explanation.
If he's claiming that it is the best explanation, actually, then that would need some type of argument. That would be his burden, because he would claim it.
Yeah, he's saying with all the reasons he's been given, even when encountering you, he maintains the belief that his argument is the best explanation.
Yeah, that's fine. Look, him saying out of all the reasons I've encountered, this is the best one I've encountered. That's not going to affect. Yeah, adding including me doesn't do anything. That's not going to affect whether or not what I'm saying is true. Talking about my view isn't going to be sufficient. Like, just saying, look, just saying, look, out of all the ones I've encountered, including yours, this is my favorite explanation, and it's not your explanation. Okay, that doesn't matter, because it's not my burden to give whatever the best explanation is, because I'm not making the claim that this is the best explanation. Look, all I need to do is just say, in principle, there's some alternative to whatever explanation that's being offered. And it seems possible that this alternative could undermine what you're saying, and so I'd want you to rule out the alternatives and explain why it's the infinite in the case instead of some other variable.
Oh, then you're just asking him to prove an impossible burden there.
It's not an impossible burden.
How is he supposed to give a response to a burden that he's not
for infinitism? Look, for infinitism, you can say infinitism is the best explanation of justification, and the way you can do it. The way you can rule out the alternative explanations, which is what Klein does, he gives the PAC and the PAA. So, look, you give some argument against circularity, right? You give some argument against what the fuck is it called? Against foundationalism, and then look, all you have left is infinitism. You can do it. It's called giving a disjunctive argument. It's saying either this explanation is correct, this one is correct, or this one is correct, right? Or either X, Y, Z is correct. X is not correct, Y is not correct, therefore Z is correct, right? We do that all the time.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like you pushed back harder in this than you did in the debate.
It was a calm conversation. What do you expect? You expect me to start rhetoricing?
Well, yeah, if it comes across to the audience,
what do you mean? We're not trying to come across the audience. We're just talking to each other. I don't know what you want.
You're talking to each other. It's a debate, though.
Yeah, I think we opened it up in the opening. I think we both in the opening statement was this is just gonna be a chill conversation about the views.
Well, yeah, but then you can't be mad at somebody when they perceive the argument to go one favor over.
I didn't say they're mad at you. I'm just saying have some silly criteria for judging. If you're gonna judge on rhetoric points for something that both parties we're not caring about rhetoric on.
Well, no, because obviously I'm not going to be able to go on substance in the way you're talking about it. I'm not going to be able to say something oh yeah, your view's more correct outside of the debate or something like that, so I'm going to mark it down for you. I perceive
that's not what I'm not talking about correctness.
Yeah, you'd be.
Are we done yet?
We are. Yeah, the debate's happened a while ago.
Well, it's happened. Continuing.
Yeah, but also, obviously, I'm not asking you to judge me on. I'm not asking you to judge me on correctness. Oh, you're right, so I'm going to say you are now. Obviously, it's about responses. Obviously, it's about substance is just responses to points, and every point you brought up, it either wasn't my burden to respond to, right, or I responded to it.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's really uncharitable then not to give the reason or the variable, or to not list the variable.
Yeah, I don't think it's uncharitable to attack something that's not your burden to attack.
Well, I don't know. All I'm saying, right, is I was given a reason to believe Bunk had some intuition towards the infinity, and then you just saying, oh, there's some variable or something. I don't know. That doesn't seem satisfactory to me.
It's just saying you haven't proven your claim because there could be some other variable. I don't know what it means by not satisfactory. It's enough to show that there's some burden that's not being satisfied on the part of the other person making a claim.
Oh, I didn't take it that way, and I don't think Austin took it that way.
That's fine. That's fine. Look, saying you didn't take it that way is fine, right? I'm just telling you what happened, right? Which is just a claim was made. I said, look, there could be an alternative, which you heard, and then the alternative wasn't ruled out. Yeah.
Well, he wasn't given the alternative. How can he rule out something?
Well, yeah. Well, wait. In principle, you could rule out there being an alternative in principle, or give an argument that's the best explanation. Like he can say you could appeal to this. Like the way you would prove it is you could say, oh, because if you appeal to this, right, you would be mistaken because like such and such, something like that.
Yeah.
Like because so it wouldn't be that. And also, I'm pretty sure he said that there were cases too of infinites that weren't unintuitive to argue that it wasn't the best explanation, even positively, right? Like I think I argued that it's not unintuitive to say there's an infinite chain of justification because the PAC and the PAA aren't unintuitive. And if you conditionalize the probability of an infinite on the PAA and the PAC, then that doesn't sound so improbable. So I don't know. Not only was it not my burden, but I also responded to it.
Yeah.
Do y'all wanna go to the group chat?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be there. Anyway, good job, Eric. I thought you did really good. I was really proud of you. The true reason I didn't vote for Eric is because he used the Austin example. Okay, so that's why you lost.
I did not expect Synth to vote for me, and you guys. That was like the least expected thing.
I'm too good of
You can't be dick riding so hard.
I'm too good of a judge.
True. But yeah, I'm glad we've shown. Okay, the Keen ruling was from not tracking. Keen L.
All right, let's hop in that thingy.